Welcome to another episode of What If Civilization Started Over? This is episode 54, and last episode we saw that Hot Pink finally got the lands of Operation Wasteland. Also, the 3-Point Star Alliance went official, but also it crossed the Atlantic Ocean, making their name official now, being the Retainers. Counterparting the African Unification Alliance. And in that alliance, Dark Violet is now fascist. The Red Country infiltrated Orange, and now the communism area is getting bigger as the alliance of Mustard and New Gold is now larger. And we had some major expeditions in the world. Greenland is almost fully discovered, and Australia came across a colony of a country we all know, South Argentina. And in this episode we will see the further events after the last one. The war against Orange impacted the country pretty bad. Now that the actual Orange country is lying here in South America, they say that the original Orange is now moved to the continent, just like what happened with Brown, but they have some unstable things happening within. As although they said that they were completely going to accept the fact that the whole country, the whole colony, was becoming the new Orange country, but still after a while we have parts of the country, provinces, wanting to break away and be a whole new own-fledged country. We see that these northern provinces are breaking away into this country. Their capital city will be this city right here, and they are a country to do something totally different than all the others that we have right here on the continent. They adapt democracy, because this is a part of Orange that in the mainland had followers that actually liked the democracy idea. So that transferred finally onto this continent as well. But it was not the only part of the country breaking away. And with that we see this country form. Their capital city will be right here. Two major cities, as this one seems like it's on the border, but no, it's right like very near to the border, but on the Orange side. And they adapt a king. Now with two more new countries in South America, the world is getting more and more countries every so years. But it doesn't mean that countries are going to still disappear, as they will. We saw recently the full annexation, or well, a friendly unification with Berry Blue and Deep Wine. And as well, of course, the large one we had with Light Cyan and Peach, and the one with Dark Lavender and Taupe. But right here, in this area of the world, there's going to be another unification. Because these two countries, south to where Lavender had their domination, are now going to unite. It was a process that took a little bit, but finally it had been settled, and this country was done. It succeeded as one country. Their capital city will be on the island, so the king right here of South India is now gone. But we see as well maybe another country disappear. Maybe not directly, but in the eyes of a country, because Dark Violet has, well, interesting, really interesting, but aggressive ideas. But well, the leader has aggressive ideas. I have said before that they are in an alliance, the African Unification, but they don't really care about the African Unification. They care mostly about themselves. But now they have a goal in mind: to rule over the Black Sea right here. They felt like that Cyan had a good job done a while ago, but the countries now surrounding it are ruining it. But they are mostly looking up north. Green. The country Dark Violet, aka West Anatolia, is going to attack Green. But not with the whole alliance. They say that they are going to have a military operation, but they don't want the whole alliance to work with them. as otherwise maybe the Alliance would get some new parts of what they will now gain. Maybe Greece, but well, they are, well, neutral, but Cyan knows about this plan, but well, they are still a little bit friends with Green, so they don't want them to be gone, but they don't act either. As finally, on a night, October the 6th, 1788, Dark Violets land their boats right south of the capital of Green, but they are swift to gain more territories, and they are landing more around the place, even right here up north, where they actually gain already a settlement pretty quick into the war. Green is still suffering. They suffered from the, well, wave of Europe, and they are still a little bit rich as they got the money when they sold some land to Royal Yellow and Pink. But since then, their economy didn't really pick up anymore, as their rival to the west did pick things up. With that, and with almost no military left, because they cut back on the military itself in terms of their costs, and now Green had a very bad state. The Dark Violets made sure that this city was now encircled. Now the Dark Violets were going up north, landing at other places as well, just to threaten Green. As you can see, it wasn't a major attack like that they were going inland towards all over the place, but they were mere threatening the cities nearby, the capital as well, because now they were very close to it, meeting up with the other fronts nearby, and this major city was almost taken, as well as this one, and this one was a little bit away, but still they got there eventually. After a while, this city got in the hands of Dark Violet, and eventually they captured the whole capital city of Green, making Green fall into misery, as they had no place to lead anymore. From that on forwards, we see other countries surrounding Green, saving, quote-unquote, the country. Just before they got there, the Dark Violets, the Light Pinks got a few parts right here, and they eventually blocked the Dark Violets. Light Pink is pretty, well, swiftly going through the country, almost that they were preparing to do the right thing they were doing right now, that they were expecting something like this, that Green would fall apart. Royal Yellow also got a settlement in the north, and they got this settlement right here in the east, working together with Light Pink to get some more land out of this. And West Green also got another city, blocking off the Dark Violets as well, making sure that the country was again, quote-unquote, saved. But of course, Dark Violet got the capital area and they got pretty far along the coast right here in the south. Eventually they met up with other forces of the West Green country, forces of Light Pink, and eventually Green was completely occupied by their surrounding neighbors. And this is not the first time we see a very old nation. Well, their bloodline, of course, is not purely the same nation since the beginning, but this is the second time we see one completely disappear. This one did completely disappear here. We, of course, had Orange still being in South America, but there is no colony of Green. There is none. Green was now under ruling of other countries. And let's take a look at this peace treaty. And let's take a look what Dark Violet would get out of this, because they were the aggressor and they have something to say at the meeting of the peace treaty that was going to happen in the capital of Lime. And at first we see, of course, Dark Violet gaining most parts, and there was even a new province created right here, as Dark Violet still had the claims right here, but they were not they didn't get the right to get the full province, as Light Pink got there as well. They got the city, so they had a favor. But now let's take a look at the other countries. as West Green did only get these 2 provinces, and they were not really happy about that. They fought over in the meeting about this one, but sadly enough, Royal Yellow got the most land out of this whole war. Pretty interesting. But these last 2 pockets is what Light Pink was able to get out of this, well, rescue war in their eyes. But it is looking very interesting now. And now also, this capital city was demoted. This was a capital for a very long time, but now it isn't anymore. And this communism leader, well, he was no more. Did this anger the communism countries in Europe or over here? No, they didn't really care about green. The alliance didn't even had almost to no contact with the country. Slowly but surely, Dark Violet can maybe be an aggressor in nearby areas, as although the countries surrounding them were not attacked in the war against Green, they might are next in the plans of Dark Violet. Now we have to look a little bit more south to South Africa, as we see the retainers gaining a few more members. South Africa is now a member of the alliance, together with this brown country down south. And now another country is going to join it. It will make the alliance even more interesting. Australia, they have joined the alliance, as they have a pretty core territory in their eyes in Africa. And now that they have heard about the African unification, they felt like that they are going to help the retainers from being taken by the African unification, because if they all lose, eventually the unification alliance is right at their doorstep, what they don't want. So they join the alliance. The alliance is now in Oceania, or South Asia, as well as in Africa and America, making this a full worldwide alliance. The African unification doesn't get a new member, as they are already pretty big, but nothing really happens to counterpart what they just did. But what we will see is a new alliance in South America. Orange, the new Orange in South America, is going to make this alliance going through to the other countries. They join it themselves, the Octagon Alliance, together with this new country that just appeared, as well as the country up north that also just was new, and all the other Orange descendants countries are going to join it, making now a whole new alliance. Why did they make it? Well, just to help themselves. They haven't found a threat in America itself. You could maybe say maybe red because they are in the American unification. You could say maybe red and yellow because they are in the African unification and they have territory on America as well, but no. Maybe you could say brown, as brown is an aggressive country since their begin of existence, but no. No, they have not. They also did not make the alliance because of, well, one country, South Argentina, being near now the retainers. No, totally not. It was just made to benefit themselves. But after a while, the country Chile also joined. It took a while, but they eventually were going through. And now we have a few alliances. The South American Alliance, the Retainers and the African Unification, the Communism Alliance is also, well, pretty far now, the Democratic Alliance, but not to forget the Economic Alliance right here of bronze. But coming back to Africa, the continent is year by year getting even more tense. Countries from north to south are closing their borders for civilians but also for trading. As of, for example, this country cannot trade via water or via an ocean because they have not. Countries are just not willing to speak to one another if you are from the opposite alliance. Pastel Green is for sure closing their borders for this steel country. Beige as well. But what Beige also is seeing is something as well. Something tense. To the other side of their border. Right at the colony of purple and dark blue. These colonies are now pretty old. They are getting pretty old. Since that Lavender left, and that Lavender is now a former shadow of its former self, these two colonies are getting to see that they don't want to be a colony anymore. There are people, well, like descendants from the time that only Dark Blue was here, but also they have now meshed together with some Lavenders that didn't left after, well, the full governor and the government left of Lavender. And they're now mixing with purple people and dark blues people. There are no really any more people left that really say, I belong to purple or I belong to dark blue. They just say, I belong to this colony or that colony. They have sent letters over to dark blue and purple wanting their independence, but they didn't get that right away. After speaking back and forth, even a meeting right here in Olive, and later there was a meeting on this island, but nothing came out of it. So after just waiting and waiting, speaking and speaking, and almost demanding, the two colonies just broke away. The dark blue colony broke away, and the purple colony broke away. They made their choice where their capital city would be. They both did that. And they both went for a governor ideology. Of course, the news eventually arrived in the lands of purple and dark blue. Both they respond, but they don't respond together. Purple itself is busy with, well, the Democratic Alliance, and they feel like, well, fine. I wasn't even really paying attention to that colony I had. But blue, on the other hand, well, they were mad, and they were really mad. Right away, they sent a lot of ships towards the colony, and they arrived at the capital, demanding that they would sign a contract, that they would at least be a part of Blue for 10 more years, and that they can, in that meantime, negotiate what happens after. But no, they were done. This colony, and now a full-fledged country, and as well this one, they were already going to join the retainers. And that officially already went through because the retainers want as much countries to be in their side. So if Dark Blue would attack the new country, technically they were attacking their own alliance. And the small letters underneath the contract that they signed with the retainers was, if you attack one of the countries that's also in the alliance, you would be departed from the retainers. So if they would attack their own colony, well, the new country, Dark Blue will be departed from the alliance completely. But they want to be in alliance because of the threat of the African unification. So they were stuck. So their boats, well, they turned home and they were going to think about something else. At last, we will take a look at Slate and their neighbor up north. Although this country broke away from Slate, they are somewhat friendly to one another. Let's say they are more neutral than friendly, but also more neutral than aggressive. But I do feel like they have a common, not enemy, but certain interests. And their interests are lying westward. Slate has seen enough. They have seen a lot of happenings between the countries that were lying here. Lavender is now gone, it's mere a shadow of its former self. We have the Democratic Alliance, we had an alliance with Mustard, but now it's a completely different one. Ideology wars from time to time. Unifications that Slate isn't happy about, but also the Pink Country isn't happy about. It is time that they were going to act. Act right now. Slate sent their forces right up into this dark green country, one of the poorest countries in the world, and in a matter of a few days, the capital city was won over and the full country surrendered. But Pink as well did send their forces over into this country, getting this major city. Slate even helped them out to get the capital in hands, but it was just a matter of time, because these two countries were so weak. They eventually met up with each other, and it eventually looked like that. They had won a war that was mere just 3 weeks. The Democratic Alliance looked over and said, oh boy, this is the first time that Slade attacked a friendly country, like a country they befriended. That never happened before. So they were hesitant. Did they attack a friend? Should we attack back as the whole alliance? But they didn't do that yet. But what the other side did do is, well, make a peace treaty. Well, a peace treaty. They completely eradicated the government of both countries and they just fully annexed the countries itself. Slade got this country and the pink country got this country. Slade just helped to get this country out of the way. It was purely going to belong to pink. The capital cities were demoted and democracy was no more. Slade had seen enough of their neighbors in the west. And their next plan they had was a huge one. Something that the world feared many years ago, but now it was focused more on one place of the world instead of a little bit worldwide back then. Because Slade, together with Pink and Mint, they made the World Destroyer Alliance coming back. And they named this exactly the same way how Red and Lavender used to name it. When Slade got into it, blown the whole cover because they, well, found gunpowder, shot everyone to their death, and they eventually left the alliance. Now they made the alliance reappear to just threaten democratic but also the communism front right here. They were not only after one or the other, the World Destroyers were after both sides. Now even Australia raised an eyebrow and did get a little scared, as they have a border with Mint and they even, well, made stuff work out with Mint. But Slade is up north and, oh boy, Australia knows for sure that Slade would win in a war if it broke out. But tense situations are waiting now, as something could break out between the Democratic Alliance and the Communism Alliance. It is in fact as well in Europe. But as well, a war could break out against the World Destroyer Alliance and the Democratic or Communism or both alliances. But as well with the Retainers and the World Destroyers. But the Retainers and the African Unification could as well be drawn into a war. This is all getting so tense that some countries that are not in an alliance, paying attention to the overall world, seeing things with another perspective. Some countries, such as Magenta, Seafoam Green and Blue, all see a major worldwide conflict coming up pretty soon. But they're not the only one, as Grey and Gold are also very scared that the world is going to almost, let's say, explode because of many alliances being rivalries to one another. But other countries in alliances itself see the tension. Rosewood as well. They see that the World Destroyer Alliance is a hectic one. They could draw the Retainers into a war, making the Retainers focus on a far other war, and then maybe the World Destroyer Alliance is like, oh, that's fun, let's also get into a war with these guys, and then it is over, because then Rosewood knows that if the Retainers are into a war, not against them, that the African Unification will attack the Retainers. And it's getting bitter, sweet but sour and salty. Because one mistake could draw the world into a major world war.